What's up? Welcome back to the podcast. Both conference finals at 3-0 right now. We look like we got the NBA finals set. Mavericks and Celtics both killing it. I was wrong on both of those predictions. Although I did say Dallas first and then Colton talked me out of it. But yeah, it's looking like we're on the verge of a couple sweeps. Do either one of you guys see any semblance of a comeback in either one of these series? Colton, what do you see any chance is there a chance?
Uh, I always like to say there's always a chance, but in this instance, I'm saying there is still a chance. Yes, here's why. Not so much for the Pacers. I have to say this. The Timberwolves look like they're spent at this point in time. They look like they've reached their peak, uh, gassed, uh, you know, not closing games. I think they,
Pat
maybe
is choking.
the emotional high of beat sweeping Phoenix and then beating the world champs, they might have been like, all right, we've achieved our goals, right? But I thought they were might have been toast last series when they lost three straight games, right? They looked done. They somehow won two in a row and beat the champs. I'm not saying that they're going to come back and win at this point. I think that they could make it interesting if they didn't mail it in. I If you look at the games, they've all been close in the fourth quarter. And that's with Anthony Edwards hasn't shot over 50% from the field in like 7 games in a row. He's the leader of the team, and he has not really been aggressive in the fourth quarter. He hasn't even taken over like 16 shots. I think last game he did, but he has not been aggressive. He's looked gassed. Cat has been missing threes and then not going into the paint. He has not I haven't been liking what I've been seeing. He played fantastic the last two series, and his shot has deserted him. And then instead of going into the paint, he's shooting more threes, which when it works, it's fine, but he needs to go in the paint. The rest of the guys, they're trying their best, but those two guys, neither of them, neither Edwards nor Cat, has been doing what has got them to this point. And it's still been close. Edwards and Cat have not been good, and it's been like a 1 point game at the end of the game. So if they can turn it on like they were the last two series, they can make it interesting. Luca has been amazing, but his knee, he still looks kind of gimpy up and down the floor. Man, if he could win a ring this year on one knee, whew, he's crazy. And then we'll see if Derek Lively's okay because he took an inadvertent knee to the back of the head. Without him, it's a little bit more interesting as well. But if he's okay, which it sounds like he's all right, then they'll probably end it, and it might be a gentleman's sweep.
Yeah, I don't think either one of these series are going to get to a point where they're seriously interesting or where we're rethinking our outcomes. But I actually think that the better chance to make the series interesting might be Indiana and Boston. I know I said, that I thought Boston was going to control, and they absolutely have been so far. But one thing I've been seeing in this series is that it's been close games. I think I even predicted like 4 or 5 close games that end with the Celtics sweep or gentleman sweep. But I'm seeing so much that the Celtics rely on the three. They're just so they're reliant on nothing but being able to make a high percentage of their 3 point shots, and we all know that that can turn on you really quick. I think they'll have another good enough shooting game to win the series for sure. But if the Pacers are able to play physically, maybe get out and run. They certainly do better when their defense turns to offense, and that could also be a bit of a cascade effect with missed threes. The long rebounds lead to outlets, lead to fast break points, and Indiana's been playing really well with that. But I still think the Celtics are going to get it done. I just think that maybe the Pacers have a better chance if Boston has some poor shooting nights, if Horford doesn't play like an all-star in every one of these games like he has been with these 6 of 7, 7 of 9 3-point shooting performances, which has been really impressive to watch. I think that the Wolves are done. I think that they don't look like they have any way to respond to what Dallas has done to them so far. We saw that one game winner where Luka got Gobert on skates and just had his way with him. And then the next game was just nothing but that from all of Dallas's scorers, just getting isolated against Gobert, putting him on skates and making step backs over and over. And they made no adjustment for that. It was the strangest thing to watch. I kept expecting them to fix that, but Gobert just kept getting on an island, no help, ended up fouling. He ended up with like 5 fouls in the game and was pretty ineffective defensively against the smaller guys. So yeah, I mean, they need to make adjustments, but I think it's far too late for that. Cat does not look like he's 6'11". He looks like he's playing about, smaller than Luka. Luka's out there looking like the bigger guy at 6'7". I just think that Dallas is a terrible, terrible matchup for Minnesota, as Sir Charles Barkley has so eloquently put it a bajillion times on Inside.
Yeah, I think both series are over. Pacers, they lost Halliburton and they don't have a chance without him. I mean, I think they could have won the last game if they had him. I think they probably would have. They obviously should have won game one, but they missed both of those opportunities. They don't have a him. They don't have Ben Mathurin either, which is another huge loss for them. Imagine if they had those two guys in their backcourt. That would be so much more offense that they are really struggling to find right now. And then I think Minnesota could get one potentially. Um, just because they don't really have any injury problems. They have their whole squad. You got to figure eventually Cat will not go 5 for 18. He might go to the hoop a few more times. And just that difference, these games are so close. If Cat would go 7 for 18, or, if he would just make a few more of these shots, they would have won several of these games. So I could see that potentially happening, although I think their heart has pretty much been ripped out by that guy, Luka, who I think he's underrated at this point, as crazy as that sounds. I think the media is still sleeping on this guy. Is every conversation I hear is about Kyrie or about how Ant's not playing up to, par, or Cat's problem, or Gobert's defensive issues. Nobody's talking about how Luka is making these guys, just putting anyone who he plays against, he eventually figures them out and figures out how to cook them, how to get them on his back, how to get the and ones, how to hit his jump, his fall away, turn around, step back, one-legged Dirk jump shot over them, his step back, going to the left three-pointer. He's just got so many moves. Dude's been a professional since he was 13 years old. He clearly rises to the occasion, plays big in the big moments, has that competitive chip on his shoulder. When he starts talking and starts yelling at the crowd or the other opponents, he just gets better. No one seems to be able to get into his head. It seems like he raises the level of his game when someone does try to play chippy with them. His one kryptonite seems to be the refs, and even this year, the last few games in the playoffs, this playoff so far, even the refs seem to raise his game when he feels like he's getting slighted on a call. He just goes out there and hits some ridiculous shot that should be an and one. So, I mean, I think obviously we said it last year that Joker was the best player in the world, but when he had his run, Luka's getting his run right now. He looks like the best player in the world to me.
He it's hilarious when he makes his gestures. Like yesterday when Gobert tried to back him down and then
Yeah.
he stole the ball and then he looks at the Timberwolves bench like, why is this guy trying to back me down? That was hilarious. So here's what I want to say, and we'll talk about this more when Dallas wins the series, right? We'll have more time to talk about the matchup itself, but wow, what a historic whiff and all-time fail from multiple teams to miss on drafting Luka. Going out, you could tell he was dominating the top league in Europe. He was dominating, like you said, pro from the age of 13. There's a couple teams I want to ding. Phoenix Suns. They had at the
Who
time,
did they draft? Who did they draft,
they
Colton?
had at the time Luka's coach in the mix in that organization. And he was like, his name was Igor, right? And he was in the mix, and they still went with local Bahaman DeAndre dominating over Luca, number one overall. But that's not the team that I want to fully bag on here because the Phoenix
Bag on? Did
the
you say
Phoenix,
bag on?
yeah, you saw how I did that, right? There's two other teams that were kind of a part of this whole thing.
Did one of
And
them
one of them
fumble the
was the Atlanta
bag?
Hawks, and they traded and they got Trey Young out of the deal, which has worked okay for them. And they added another first round pick, which it didn't really work out for them, but it was an okay move. But let's talk about the Sacramento Kings because the Sacramento Kings are in danger of entering the territory that Blazer fans know at this point. Passing on the guy that became the guy for a bust in Marvin Bagley. Imagine being a Kings fan right now, watching that. That must be how we felt when we see Durant or Michael Jordan. They took Marvin Bagley, who can't even get minutes on the Pistons. The Pistons, the Detroit Pistons that haven't been good in 5 years. Marvin Bagley can't even get minutes on that team. Just that is such a historic whiff.
You know what?
Historic whiff.
Let's talk about let's talk about what we all think is going to be the finals here for a few minutes before we sign off. Dallas and Boston. I mean, all signs pointing to that. One interesting storyline that someone in the gym today kind of reminded me of is Kyrie going back to Boston. The Boston fans are going to be all over them, but I see potential out there for him to break their hearts a couple times. I could see him hitting some big shots in that NBA Finals series, really silencing the crowd, getting into it with the fans in the first row. And
Dropping
then
Sage on the logo again.
and I could see Luka doing the same thing. That series, I've said it for all playoffs wrong, and I've been wrong for the most part. I mean, not that they've played anyone, they've gotten lucky, but I don't trust Boston. I think that if they go cold shooting the ball, it's gonna be real rough. Obviously, they're so good that when they do hit the shot, they're unbeatable. Uh, Shout out Drew Holiday. That guy, I think, is raises his game, and I think he'll definitely show up. But Brown and Tatum, gonna be a lot of pressure on them going against Luka and Kyrie, two guys who are certified closers. One's a NBA champion. Yeah, it's gonna be a crazy series.
And with potentially no Porzingis, I feel like Derek Lively, he might be able to eat them alive. I mean, Horford has been playing great, but he is no spring chicken. It's going to be a youth versus experience thing. And I really think that the way Lively's been playing, he's kind of a difference maker out there. Like when I watch that team, the way that they're set up, Kirby, you mentioned it several times when we were watching the game. What a perfect draft
He's
pick
like
by
he's like
Dallas.
I was thinking of this the other day. He handles the catch on the pick and roll like Draymond Green. Like when he gets the ball off the pocket pass and they're playing 4-on-3 basketball, he makes the right play like Draymond does, but he's like half a foot taller, can crash the
He's
boards
like
way
Tyson
better. And
Chandler game other than that, which is
yeah,
what you need.
yeah, that's a huge difference. As soon as he got hurt, they were struggling off the pocket passes. Gafford isn't quite as good at it as Lively. But yeah, if Lively's in there making those secondary decisions, kicking out to shooters or rolling to the hoop, I mean, that's the perfect teammate to pair with Luca.
I just want to say if Kristaps is healthy, it's Kristaps' return to Dallas. So that's an interesting little side story. And I think given the time off, I think he will be healthy. They talked about maybe him even playing the end of this series. So we won't know till June 6th. So hopefully he's healthy and we have a fully healthy.
Unless one of these series starts to get close and they have to bring back one of these guys, Lively or Porzingis. But yeah, a good chance though both of those guys will probably be sitting out until the finals. All right. I guess tonight could be the end of the Eastern Conference Finals. We'll still have to see what happens there. And yeah, we'll be back next week to potentially talk about the NBA Finals or these crazy game sixes and game sevens that are happening. Thanks for watching. See you next time.